Welcome to the US EB3 Permanent Residency by Working in the US, a webinar with Holborn Pass. My name is Tyrone Siren. I'm a partner here at Holborn. A bit about myself. I've been in the immigration business for 16 years now. So I started in about 2008, helping families from around the world immigrate to the U.S. through either investment into something we call the EB-3 program, or through having a sponsoring employer in the U.S. and relocating your family and getting a job in the U.S. and working. So today we're going to focus on the pathway that allows you, that has a sponsor in America that will sponsor you to work at their company. But first, we'll talk a little bit about Holborn assets and Holborn Pass, then a little bit about the EB3 program, the process, the benefits of it, and then the actual job and the location, and then also the cost of the program. So about Holborn Assets and Holborn Pass. Holborn Assets is a global wealth management company with 23 offices. I think they've opened a couple more just recently around the world, 20,000 clients, 500 plus employees. It was started in 1998. And, you know, as an international firm like this, it gives us a kind of stability beyond what most other, I'd say, companies can offer, is that, you know, Holborn will be here throughout the process. The immigration process to the U.S. and other countries, it's a process, and it can take, 1, 2, 3 years at times. So you want a company that's large enough and stable enough to be there and follow through with you and your case for the entire period of time, and then even afterwards. So, being a global wealth management company, Holborn can offer a whole array of services beyond just immigration. They do financial advising, offer life insurance, and different types of investments. Holborn Pass was established about 4 years ago as a division inside of Holborn Assets. We focus on a lot of investment migration of products, but also, work visas and different sources of immigration pathways. So again, if, the U.S. is not always the right fit for everyone, so we do offer a full set of immigration products in Europe. Portugal over the past few years has been an incredibly popular program. We've helped hundreds of families go through what was called the Portuguese Golden Visa process through investment. But we also offer, real estate investment projects and programs in Greece, in Malta, Spain is also, and then recently we've really started focusing on the UAE or Dubai, which has some great property investment opportunities, and also a wonderful Golden Visa program. For those of you looking for just kind of more global mobility and without a lot of relocation commitment, we do offer citizenship programs in the Caribbean, which are basically direct to citizenship and passports, through investment or through government donations. So, within about a year or less, 6 months to a year, you can obtain a pretty strong passport, one that will allow you to travel visa-free to the UK, the EU. Some of these passports allow you special access to the US and Canada. So, these are pretty powerful citizenship documents or citizenship passports. So if you have an interest in any of these, if the US isn't quite the right fit, or you're not able to relocate to the US just right away, contact me or someone at Holborn, and we can discuss a program that might be a better fit for you. Okay, so today we're going to talk about what is casually called the US Green Card. What a green card actually is that, now we want to be clear, it's not a passport. It does lead to citizenship and eventually an American passport. But what a green card actually is permanent residency. Permanent residency means that you're allowed to live permanently in the U.S. and have all the rights almost as a U.S. citizen. You can live anywhere in the U.S. You can work anywhere in the U.S. You can travel in and out of the U.S. freely. Children can go to public school for free, and at university level they can get local tuition prices. which makes a huge difference. Sometimes a savings of around $20,000 per year at university, as well as a host of other social programs that Americans benefit from. After 5 years of being a permanent resident and spending about half that amount of time in the U.S., you can apply to for citizenship and that U.S. passport. The U.S. passport, of course, is one of the most powerful passports in the world, allowing you to travel visa-free to almost everywhere. So it's really, that's and the thing about the U.S. is it is a country of immigrants, so there's a very clear pathway to citizenship. Every year, America, welcomes more than a million immigrants, to America, which is more than all the other countries in the world combined. So America is still very much a country of immigrants. There's a lot of programs with clear pathways to permanent residency and citizenship, but the program we're talking about today, the EB3 program, I think offers one of the most clear-cut and simple pathways to permanent residency and the green card. Before I go any further, I'll answer one question that people often ask: is why is it called the green card? And that's simply just because it's a card that's green. When we talk about the green card, we're actually talking about kind of a physical document, which is something like like a driver's license. It's a small green card, but the actual status you'll have is permanent resident in the U.S. So we're going to talk about the EB3 program. What I like about the EB3 program is there's not a lot of requirements. There's there's no minimum assets required. You don't have to show that you have a certain amount of wealth. You don't have to make a large investment. The other program that I specialize in, the EB5 program, it's an $800,000 investment, so a very substantial amount of money. But the EB3 gets you the same green card, the same status, the same permanent residency. So that's the nice thing about it. So you don't have to have minimum assets. You don't have to make a large investment. You don't have to have any special educational background. You're not required to have a college degree or master's degree. Because what we focus on is kind of entry-level, unskilled EB3 jobs. There's no work experience required. So again, you don't have to show that you're an executive at a major international firm. You just have to be able to show that you're kind of ready, willing, and able to go to work in America. There's not even any special language training or English language exams required. A lot of other countries will require you to take what's called IELTS exam, where they measure your actual English language proficiency. There's nothing like that for the U.S. That being said, English is spoken in the U.S. and would be spoken at the job. So if you speak no English, I would recommend that if you're doing this program, to sign up for some English language courses, start studying right away so that you can communicate once you get to the U.S. and at your new job. Now, there are a few requirements. You have to not be a criminal. You have to be able to show that you have a clean criminal record by getting a police clearance report from your home country or country of residence. You have to get a basic medical checkup to show that you're in good health. And, most importantly, you have to be willing to do good work. We have some very good partners and employers in the U.S. that provide good, solid jobs, that offer, decent pay, as well as health insurance and a lot of other benefits, as well as room for promotion and advancement. And so you can really start your life in the U.S. Okay, a little bit about the process. The process is actually pretty straightforward. I'd say, step one, you sign up with Holborn Pass, and we begin collecting basic documents from you, basic identity documents, copies of passports, marriage certificates, birth certificates, and we work with our partners in the U.S. and eventually the employer, and you make a short introduction video introducing yourself and why you want to work at this job and why you want to move to the U.S. The employer, after reviewing all of this, will make a job offer, and we'll then start filing the paperwork for the process, some called labor certificate, and then eventually, we'll go through the green card petition, and you'll do an interview at the consulate. You'll move to the U.S. and begin work and begin, living your American dream. Now, processing time, probably from start to finish, is around 2.5 years. Because as always, in immigration take a bit of time. It takes time to gather documents. So it's about around 2.5 years, which it sounds like a long time, but time goes by fast. And particularly because you're going to be relocating to the U.S., it does give you time to plan. If you're going to be moving your family to the U.S. and you have children, you're going to want to start thinking about them finishing up their school year and wherever you currently reside. Start looking at schools in the U.S. Start thinking about where you're going to live in the U.S. And so it's good to have this little bit of time to kind of process and prepare for a major international relocation. So again, a little bit more about the process. You sign up with Holborn, the onboarding process. We'll help you record a video interview and gather your documents. And then, the labor certificate is one of the first major steps of the process. That's something the employer does for you. They submit a labor certificate that shows to the U.S. Department of Labor, showing that they need to hire foreign workers, that there's no local workers available or suitable for the job. That process, usually takes 9 to 12 months to get a result. Once we get that labor certificate, then the lawyers will file an EB3 petition for you, which is actually kind of the green card petition. And that process, we have a process called premium processing, which we get a result in 15 business days. So in about 2 weeks, you'll know the result if the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services has approved your petition or not. Once that is approved, and they typically are, because you probably met all the requirements, then we begin scheduling an appointment for you at your local or nearest U.S. embassy or consulate. Depending on what country you're in, and what home passport you have or native passport you have, scheduling this passport or scheduling the interview time will vary. So it's just something to be aware of, and particularly on how many visas are available that year. So this is when I do recommend that we sit down and have a one-on-one meeting and discuss what the process will look like for you and your family, and then we'll try to make it work the best possible way for you and your family. Okay, now we've talked a little bit about what a green card is. It's permanent residency in the U.S. It gives you all the rights, nearly all the rights as a U.S. citizen. And we've talked about the requirements. There are very few requirements, other than what I usually say. The most important is probably a good attitude and the willingness to relocate and work. And then naturally you're probably curious about what is the job and where is this at. Well, currently we have a partner and a job located in Allentown, Pennsylvania. That's up in the northeast of the U.S. Pennsylvania is a really beautiful state. It's a really nice area of America. It's up in the northeast of the U.S. The city of Allentown is about 2 hours west of New York City, to give you an idea. It's a really nice city. It's a very historic city. It's a city where all the steel mills of the 20th century, a lot of them were located. So a lot of the steel that built America came from Allentown. It's a fairly large, well, it's a mid-sized city. It's 800,000 people, so it's large enough to, have kind of all the benefits of a city, but not so large either. Being so close to New York City, you can always access the big city if you'd like to. It's really considered a pretty nice place to live. It's we've got parks and museums, and in fact, it's usually ranked, well, it has been ranked as one of the top places in the U.S. to retire. That's because the cost of living is not that high, but the quality of life is pretty good. And then also, in Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania, there's several top universities and colleges, and then just in that area in general, the New York area, there's lots of a lot of other universities, and just really a lot of opportunities. Because with the EB3, you can take your spouse and your unmarried children under the age of 21. So, you want to think about educational opportunities, as well as maybe opportunities for your spouse, job opportunities, career opportunities. So in this area, just being a couple hours from New York, a couple hours from Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., and even Boston, there's just a tremendous amount of educational and career opportunities. So again, very good location. And then a little bit about the job. Now, as I said, these are entry-level jobs. They're working at a logistics warehouse. Again, the reason we choose these kind of entry-level jobs is because there's not a lot of requirements, right? It doesn't require you to have a lot of education or a lot of training or a long work history. The jobs are basic. It's usually packing boxes, putting labels on boxes. I mean, you can see here, these are pictures from an actual facility. So you can see they're clean, modern facilities. And you'll be working alongside, American citizens and even other EB3 immigrants. So again, the jobs are working in these logistics warehouse, packing boxes. The annual income is about 22,000, but to be honest, the wages have gone up so much in the U.S. in the last couple of years. I'd say that's where it starts, but it's definitely probably going to be more than that in reality. Usually probably around $20 an hour. Because these are warehouse logistics jobs, they're open 24 hours a day, so there's different shifts you can work if you want to work during the day, or if you want to work at night, you can. See, and it's just after you work there for 30 days, you get medical insurance for you and your family. So these are good entry level jobs. And I always like to say, this is a pretty large company, so there's a lot of opportunities within the company itself. You might start out as just kind of working on the line, putting labels on boxes. But after, I like to say, is one of the nice things about America is that it is a meritocracy. So if you're working hard, you show up. There's no reason why you can't be a manager of this facility. In 6 months, a year, a shift manager, then just keep working your way up in the company. So there's a lot of opportunities just inside of this. And to remind, just a reminder that your spouse can take any job he or she wants. So if you can work here, your spouse can go, work in an office. They're engineers or architects. They can do anything like that. So again, I always like to remind you that this is the first job that you'll have in America. And you can grow with this company, and there's a lot of potential there. Your family will have educational and other job and career opportunities. So that's the basics of the program. I know the other major question I'm sure a lot of you have is, well, this all sounds wonderful. It's America sounds great. Having a green card sounds great. The job sounds pretty good, but how much is this going to cost? And of course, that's a big question. Because like everything, it's there are fees that go along with this. So, but we've tried to make it accessible to almost everyone. And let me show you. So let me bring up the fee chart here. All right. So the flat costs for all the service fees, consultation fees, legal fees, and government fees is $45,000, plus an additional $3,500 for the premium processing fee. This is for a single person. Each family member will cost an additional $3,000. What we've done though is we've tried to break this into payments. so that because $45,000 is a lot of money, and we want you to be able to get started on the process. So we break the payment into installments of 3 different installments that are kind of tied to milestones and successful milestones. So that, as your case progresses, you'll be making payments. So the initial sign-up service fee with Holborn is $20,000. So that would be what you would pay when you first sign up. Now that kind of gets us going. Talking about gathering documents. We're working with our U.S. partners, and so that is the initial payment. After about 12 months, once the labor certificate is approved, you would make a second payment of $15,000, as well as the premium processing payment. And if you have any family members, like for your spouse or your children, it's $3,000 additional for each of those. At that point, the lawyers will file your EB3 Green Card petition. And with premium processing, we should have a result in about 15 days. The U.S. government actually is very good about turning these petitions around. The U.S. very much wants legal immigrants and people who come to America and work legally. That's the point of the EB3 programs, that it gives everyone an opportunity to get to the U.S., and it gives U.S. employers a chance to hire foreign workers when they need to. So it's a very good program. It serves a very important purpose in the U.S. Now, once your initial what's called I-140 is approved, you'll make the final payment of $10,000. At that point, we will also be scheduling an interview at your nearest embassy, U.S. embassy or consulate, and helping you prepare for that interview. Once you go through the interview process, your whole family will go to the interview. The interviews they always sound intimidating, but they're really not so bad. It's they're less than 10 minutes usually, and they just ask you questions about where you're going, and make sure that you're clear about what the job is. And once they approve you at the consulate, they'll put an immigrant visa in your passport, one in each of your family's passports, and you have 180 days to travel to the U.S. And and once you travel to the U.S., you land in the U.S., you and your family become permanent residents, and you can start your work. Your children can start school, and you're on your way to living the American life. So I've tried to kind of keep this webinar short and kind of sweet and to the point, because I want you to have an opportunity to ask questions, because I'm sure you have a lot of questions about anything from what is a green card to the process to also what the job and location looks like. So with that, I see we've got a really good crowd, and we've got some questions already. So if you have questions, if you could put them into the question and answer box, then I will. I'll do my best to answer those. So I've got a few coming up here. Just a drink of water. All right. Okay. So there's a question here: are there sponsorships for medical coding or billing jobs? So are there jobs in the medical industry? Again, what we focus on is, it's actually quite challenging to find a good sponsor in the U.S. And we've been working with this sponsor and our partners I have for, probably almost 10 years. So I guess the short answer is no, we don't offer any jobs like that. And those kind of jobs would require, certain levels of education and certification, which can be challenging for clients to be able to get improved. So again, the reason we offer these jobs, it may not be, the dream job for you or for, but it's a starting job. It's a way to get to the U.S. and get the green card, which is, the permanent residency forever. So, that's why we try to, I put it this way, we're not, we're not a labor agency, I guess. So we don't go out and look for jobs for people. We offer one job with our partner, and that's all. One question here: what if the visa is denied? Well, of course, that's very unfortunate. The lawyers who represent you and the company can reapply, to submit the petition again. And then, there is a refund policy in place, from a service fee point of view. So, the approval rate for EB3 is pretty high. And typically, as long as you have a substantial employer, which we have that has done EB3 for a long time successfully, and you are sincere about moving to the US and working at this job, typically you're not going to get denied. There's no real reason for them to deny you. But in that very unfortunate case where you were denied, we have a refund policy in place. Again, questions about different sorts of jobs that we offer. We only offer this one particular job. It's kind of set up to get you to the U.S. Once the person's in the U.S., or their spouse can apply for any job. So once they're here, they can start looking around. You or your spouse can start looking around for different jobs. That might be more fitting for your career aspirations and ambitions. So. The processing time, I'd say from start to finish, that's, takes time. The question is, can we speed up the processing time? This is actually one of the fastest programs the U.S. offers. So, I think, within 2 years, you're going to have your initial I-140 approved, which is, an approval from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services in Washington, D.C. And then at that point, it's really scheduling an interview with the U.S. consulates. So, look, it goes pretty fast. I know it always sounds like a long time when you're, on this side. And to that, what I say is, get started. Typically, I've never had, a client say, I wish I'd waited longer. Because this is a process. They would say, I wish I'd started sooner. So, it does sound like a long time, 2.5 years, but it goes by fast. And again, it is one of the faster programs in the U.S. or, to get a permanent residency. So I do want to clarify that this is not a work permit. So it's not like a work visa where, it's temporary. And, if the job doesn't work out, you get sent back to your home country. When you and your family land in the U.S., you're permanent residents. So that's what makes the EB3 program so powerful. Like take Canada, for example. Canada has some wonderful immigration programs and work visa programs. But typically you have to work at a company, for a company, for at least 2 years in Canada before they'll consider permanent residency. With the U.S., you get permanent residency immediately upon arrival in the U.S. So that's a huge difference and a huge benefit to the EB3 program. Let's see. Are there any qualifications? Again, not particularly. You have to be, ready, willing, and able to work at this job. I'd say you should be in reasonably good health. It's going to be working in a warehouse where, you'll be on your feet most of the day. So you're going to be walking around. If you like to count your steps and stay healthy, you'll definitely get you'll probably get your 10,000 steps in per day. But there's no other real qualifications. Again, there's no specific education requirements or work requirements. Now, there's a very important question here that comes up. It says, how long do I have to work for the employer? And the answer to that is, you have to have the intention to work permanently at this job. And that's what they'll judge at the U.S. consulate interview. Are you sincere about going and giving it your best shot? So that what that means is, you you got to go to this job. It's a real company. It's a real job. It's pretty good. Our partners are very good. Now, all that being said, if the company closed down, you're free to move on. Your green card is not tied to that company. And I'd say if there was a worst case scenario where the job was dangerous or the employer wasn't paying you, wasn't a safe working environment, you're being harassed, you're free to leave the job. So there's no set requirement on how long you have to stay at the company. If you're free to leave if it's not a good working condition. So if when you do leave, we always recommend that you inform us. Let the lawyers know why you're leaving the job, and be transparent about it, so that if there was ever a question about why you left the job, it's documented, and we can verify that you really did give it your best shot. You tried very hard to make this job work for you. But sometimes life changes. If you get sick and you can't work, if you have an emergency and have to return to your home country for a while, you're free to do all of those things. Let's see. Another good question is there's a person here who says, I'm a professional. I'm a data analyst. I'm not sure if I fit into this program. Again, I would say you do. You do have a professional career. It sounds like, but like anything, if you want to move to the U.S., there's certain sacrifices that you'll make with this program. Again, there's another program called EB-3, which is an $800,000 investment. So in that program, you invest $800,000. Here, you have to invest time. But there's no reason once you're in the U.S., you work at this job, you're free to get a second job, start your own company. You could get a part-time job doing data analysis. So, just remember that this is your first job in the U.S. It's a stepping stone to the U.S. Or if you have a spouse, maybe the spouse will go to work in the warehouse and you'll get a job as a data analyst. Let's see. I'm looking for a few more questions here. Okay, here's a good question. My son is 19 years old. Is he, if the program takes 2 years, will he still qualify if the children have to be under the age of 21? I'd say that's very close. But let's sit down and talk about that, because there are certain deadlines that can be met. But yeah, 19 is probably pretty close. So for that, I would recommend let's sit down and talk about your family situation, particularly, and get the timeline. Is he about to turn 20 or did he just turn 19? Again, I think that's a very good reason to sit down. We get to know each other. We learn about your family, the ages, and what your aspirations are. Let's see. Do you have to sign a contract with the company? That is also a very good question. No, these are hourly jobs. You get paid by the hour, so there's no actual contract that you have to sign with the company. It's I guess at will. It is a full-time job, so working around 40 hours a week, and there's always plenty of hours to work. If you want to work overtime, you get paid extra money for working overtime. But there's no there's no contract with the company per se. Question: what would be the reason I was denied for the program for the EB3? That's a good question, and I think I hit on it a little bit, but I'll say again. The main reason you'd be denied is, one, if the company if the sponsor in America is not substantial enough and can't prove that they really need to hire foreign workers. Now, in this case, this company, it's a very large company. They can show lots of data about why they can't find local workers to do the work. There's a labor shortage right now in the U.S. There's a labor shortage. It's really hard for employers to find workers. The other reason you might be denied is if the U.S. consulate doesn't believe that you're sincere about going to work at this job. So you have to be sincere about it. Let's see. Is there temporary accommodations to be provided? No, the company itself does not provide any accommodations. We do help kind of with resettlement. We have a network of people that will, EB3, even other EB3 workers, who kind of make suggestions, and we kind of help you with the relocation process. Okay, here's a pretty good question. Is this program similar to the H-1B? That's a very good question. The H-1B visa is a pretty well-known program. It's used a lot by tech workers and tech companies. But I want to point out what is so very different about the H-1B visa and the EB3 Green Card. The H-1B visa is temporary, and it's tied to a job, and it never becomes permanent residency. So you can come, company, you can get an H-1B, you can come and work at a company. If that company lays people off, like this is happening a lot in the tech industry these days, tech companies are laying off workers, and a lot of H-1Bs. If you're on an H-1B visa and the company lays you off, fires you, you have to leave America. Your visa's gone. Now, the advantage of the EB3 is that, if there was an economic downturn and the company laid you off, fired you, let you go, closed the company, you don't have to leave America. You're free. I mean, it'd be unfortunate you lose the job, but you can search for another job. You're just like any American citizen or other permanent resident. You have the freedom to apply for any job you like. And again, you're not, unlike the EB or the H-1B, that is a temporary visa that eventually expires and you have to go back home, or it's tied to the job. So if the company closed or laid you off, you'd have to go back home. With the EB3, it's forever. Okay. Let's see. Some good questions about the cost of living in the U.S. I'll mention it this way about the cost of living. I'd say, you're probably going to make somewhere around $20 an hour now, which comes out to be more than $30,000 a year. So you can imagine this: if you and your spouse both worked at this job, and your spouse could get a job at this company as well. They'd like that very much. They'd like to have both of you working there. If you're both making about $30,000 to $35,000 a year with some overtime, that's going to be a total of about $70,000 for your household income, which that's the median income in the U.S. The median household income in the U.S. is, I think, $72,000. So it gives you an idea of that if you were both working at this job, your household income would be very similar to most Americans' household. Let's see. I think I've answered most of the questions here. There's some kind of variations on the questions, but I think I've kind of gone through most of them. So what I'm going to recommend is that, if you have more questions or a more specific question about your case, about, is a 19-year-old child too old to be in the program, or what are the costs, or what are the refunds, and, or a little bit more about what the job and the opportunities are, about your specific situation, I'd recommend to either reach out to me or to an advisor at Holborn, and we'll set up an appointment one-on-one. After about a 30-minute meeting, we can usually kind of answer all the questions and really kind of look at the payment plans and if this is the right program for you. So I think with that, everyone, I'm gonna probably sign off. I just want to thank you all very much for joining. We had a really wonderful turnout, some very good questions. So just keep in mind that if you're interested in the EB3 program, or any other program, if you're interested in moving to Europe or getting a Caribbean passport, you're welcome to reach out to me or someone at Holborn who can advise you on how to get through the process. Or if you need any other sort of financial advisory, there are people at Holborn who specialize in that as well. And with that, I'm going to sign off and thank you.